Let's be real, the amount of information coming at us every day is just a flood. So how do you even begin to sort fact from fiction? Well, that's what we're doing today. We're going to build a mental toolkit, giving you the skills to cut right through the noise and to become a smarter, way more confident media consumer. Okay, so let's just dive right in with a question that trips up pretty much all of us. When you see an article or a video, can you tell for sure if it's a fact, someone's opinion, or, something in that murky area in between? If you feel like it's getting harder and harder, you are definitely not alone. And there's a really good reason for that. Exactly. That feeling of uncertainty, that's what we're going to tackle head on. The lines between what's a fact and what's an opinion are super blurry these days. And honestly, a lot of the time, that's on purpose. But the good news is there is a system, a way to bring it all back into focus. I want you to think of our modern media world as this giant, sprawling maze. It's totally filled with dead ends, confusing turns, and paths that look straight but are actually designed to get you lost. You can't just wander around in there and hope for the best. Nope. You need a map, and you need a set of really reliable tools to find your way through. So let's grab our very first tool. This one is foundational. Before you even start analyzing what a piece is saying, you have to ask a much simpler question. Why was this made in the first place? Figuring out its purpose is always step one. Okay, this right here, this is basically your cheat sheet. Look at the huge difference between hard news and opinion. One uses facts to simply inform you. The other uses facts, but selectively, to persuade you. And this is so important. An opinion piece isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you have to go in knowing its goal is to win you over to a certain viewpoint, not just to give you the raw data. And analysis, that's sitting right in the middle, trying to connect the dots and explain what it all means. Just knowing which lane you're in changes everything. All right, so we've looked at the media world outside. For our second tool, we've got to do something a little different. We have to turn inward. Because honestly, the biggest thing affecting how we see information isn't always the source. It's our own brains and their sneaky little shortcuts. And first up is the big one. This one gets all of us. It's called confirmation bias. To put it simply, our brains just love being right. So this bias acts like a search engine that's programmed to find information that agrees with what we already think. And at the same time, it quietly ignores or dismisses anything that challenges us. It feels great, sure, but it can trap you in a serious echo chamber. And then you've got this other tricky one, the availability heuristic. This is basically your brain taking a shortcut. It judges how common or likely something is based on how easily you can think of an example. So if you see tons of news coverage about, say, shark attacks, your brain might start to think they're way more common than they actually are, just because those vivid stories are so fresh in your memory. Come on, we've all done this, right? You're in a debate with someone, and what's the first thing you do? You pull out your phone and start frantically searching, not for the most accurate information, but for that one link, that one headline that says, "See, I was right." That, my friends, is confirmation bias in its purest form. Just being aware that our brains do this automatically is a huge step. Okay, so now we're on the lookout for the biases in our own heads. Perfect. Now let's build a little detection kit for spotting bias out there in the media itself. This third tool is a super practical checklist you can use on pretty much any piece of content you find. So our checklist has 4 key things to look for. First up is loaded language. These are words specifically chosen to make you feel a certain way. Second is selective emphasis, which is about what they chose to highlight, but maybe more importantly, what they chose to leave out. Third, story placement, because what's on the front page or at the top of the broadcast is what they're telling you is most important. And finally, source selection. Ask yourself, whose voices are we hearing in this story and whose are we not? This is a perfect example of loaded language. Think about it. Calling something a tax burden immediately makes you feel like it's a heavy, negative thing you have to endure. But call that same thing a tax contribution, and suddenly it sounds like a positive, helpful act. The underlying fact, the tax, is identical, but the words are chosen to completely shape your emotional response before you've even had a chance to think. This right here is why selective emphasis is so powerful. A story can be 100% factually accurate. Every single sentence could be true, but it can still be incredibly biased if it conveniently leaves out key context or any opposing arguments. You should always be asking yourself, okay, what am I not being told here? Sometimes the silence is louder than the word. All right, so now you have the tools. You know how to identify different types of content, you're aware of your own brain's little tricks, and you've got a checklist for spotting bias in the media. Now, let's put it all together into a simple, repeatable framework you can use every single day. And here it is, your 4-step game plan. It's super simple. Step 1, you start with the content. What is this trying to be? Is it news, analysis, or opinion? Step 2, you look inward. What are my feelings on this topic? Am I hoping for a certain answer? Step 3, you look outward again and use that bias checklist we just talked about. And finally, and this is the pro move, this is what separates a casual reader from a critical thinker, you seek corroboration. Never, ever take one source's word for it. Go see what other people, especially people with different viewpoints, are saying about the same topic. Look, this isn't just some theoretical classroom exercise. You literally have a powerful new toolkit at your disposal right now. So the real question is, what's the first thing you're going to re-examine? Think about an article you read this morning or a video you scrolled past yesterday. Try running it through this framework. See what you discover.